Hey, Deepa, how are you?
Hey, Terry. Good to hear from you. I'm good. Thank you. Happy Friday.
No problem.
I think Siri was trying to help out there.
Terry is always comes in between. So have you been doing this series for a long time, Terry?
Um, the Flow Office Hours, this is the third one.
Oh, wow. I missed two.
Yeah.
Okay, I will
They
have
they are recorded out on my YouTube channel if you
yes,
are
yes.
interested in
I did follow your YouTube for preparing for admin and right now
Oh,
I'm
sweet.
looking for app builder. Yes, they are very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I hear from people from everywhere on those. It's it's a little bit humbling when I stop and think about the number of people who have watched some of those and have gotten some help with their exams. It's pretty cool.
Yes, they are great, and we really appreciate. I mean, the Ohana is full of people like you who are ready to help out, and
Yeah,
thank you.
it's a unique community, isn't it? It's amazing the
Absolutely.
number of people that,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes, and these are some great sessions. And well, at work, we are trying to get into flows. So I'm trying hard to learn as much as I can for about
Sure.
flows and converting the workflows into flows.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on,
Yep.
which is, I did at the last, it wasn't the last user group meeting that I led. It was a couple of them ago. I did a kind of a deep dive into the migration tool.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. That seems to be a
It's
very useful tool. As long as you don't have any, I don't know, correct me, but if you don't have any complex workflows or, like
yeah, they've got to be crazy easy ones.
yeah,
Yeah,
the easy ones, which is very rare, but yeah.
right, right.
Yes. I hope they improvise the tool and make our lives better for us admins.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they're able to kind of at least clean up most of at least some, maybe. If they could do 50% of them, that would be all right. Right now I had for the user group I set up, I think I had 5 different workflow rules that I ran through the tool and tried to debug through. And I think all but one of them, or maybe 2 of them, succeeded. The rest of them failed for various reasons. And so, yeah, I'm hopeful that it'll improve, but
Absolutely. Yes.
let's see.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, looking forward to some great features in there because converting 100 plus workflows or I don't know, 150 workflows, I mean, that's crazy, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah. Where are you from?
I'm from Connecticut.
In Connecticut. Okay, very good.
Yes. How about you? I feel Des Moines or
Yeah, Des Moines, Iowa. Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
Nice.
I'll
How's
be
the weather there?
how's the weather here?
Yes.
It's a little bit chilly. It's been kind of a strange April. We've had some snow that doesn't last at this point anytime, but we've had some rain. It's been in the 70s, almost to the 80s at some days, and it's just been kind of all over the place.
Right.
So
Yes. Yes. Yeah, hopeful for the spring weather. So we'll look
right.
forward to some better warm days.
Yeah. Yeah. You probably are don't get a lot of snow, do you, there in
Well,
Connecticut?
oh yeah, we did get, but
You
this
do.
year, surprisingly, we didn't. We didn't
Okay.
much. Yeah, like you said, we didn't get much snow, but we do get heavy snowfalls here.
Do
But
you? Okay.
surprisingly, yes, we do get heavy snowfalls this side.
All
But yeah,
right.
it is what it is, right?
Yeah. I'm one of those that I love snow, and I think that when God invented snow, he forgot that it only needed to grow on grassy areas and not on concrete.
Right.
If it could just avoid anything concrete, it would be fine.
Yeah, that
You
would
know?
have been a blessing. I agree. A lot of work would have saved.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's good to have the 4 seasons. How about
It
there?
is.
All the 4 seasons?
Yep. Yeah. And it is pretty. The snow is pretty, when it first falls, but
Nice.
it's also nice to just have green grass too.
Nice. Yes, absolutely.
Is it Jory? Jory, is that how you say your name?
Yeah, thanks.
I
Hey,
can't
Terry.
believe I got that right. I'm like the worst at names.
Well done.
Welcome.
Thanks.
We'll get started here fairly soon. Hopefully Andy will join here momentarily as well. And hopefully we can answer some questions for people.
So is this an ongoing session? Like every Friday do you do it or every other Friday?
It is the second Friday of every month.
Okay.
We've talked a little bit about doing it every 2 weeks, but it's a little difficult to get it all fit into the schedule
Right.
to make that happen. But we might, if the volume is there that justifies it, we may bump it up to
Sure.
twice a month. But
Absolutely.
yeah. Are any of you going to Texas Dreamin' this year, or to?
No, I'm attending it virtual.
Okay.
How about you, Terry?
Yep, I'll be speaking there. That's the reason I was asking if anyone was going.
Perfect. Looking forward to that. I'm sure they'll be streaming it, right? So
I'm not sure, honestly, if they are. It's competing this year with Trailblazer DX, so that's running all at the same time. And
DX. I was thinking about the DX. What did you talk about then? What were you mentioning? The
Trailhead. I'm sorry, Texas Dreamin'.
Oh no.
Texas Dreamin'.
Okay. I was talking about the DX. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of that will be streamed, I believe.
Right.
Jory, are you going anywhere? Or are you staying home too?
Nope, not for me. There's usually one in Orlando, which is where I'm based. So I usually try to attend that one.
Okay. Yeah, is that Florida Dreamin'? Is that what they call that one?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that was a couple months ago, wasn't it? Or
I think they had one.
mistaken?
I think they had one recently. You're right. I think it was sometime in the fall. Yeah, I think they usually do it in the fall.
Okay. Well, I think Andy was at that one and speaking on Flow. I think. I know he's going to be at Texas as well. And what's the one in Atlanta? That's
Southeast.
coming up. Southeast. That one, I think he's going to be there too.
Very cool.
He's all over the place. He's good. Hey, Emily. We're just kind of chit-chatting at this point.
Oh, hi. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
And hopefully Andy pops in here about any moment. He likes to make me kind of freak out that he'll show up last minute. And there he comes. Hey, Jackie.
Hello.
Hey, Andy. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
Same here.
You ready for Texas Dreamin'?
Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Have you done an in-person event before this?
I was at Tahoe Dreamin'
Oh,
and spoke there. So this will be the second one.
cool.
And Midwest Dreamin' will be coming up here fairly soon too, and plan on being at that one. So that'll be good. Hey, Ashley.
Hello.
All right. Well, we are, I think, ready to get started here. We've got a good number of people. Let me change my lights around a little bit. All right, so let me share real quick just some of the ground rules, and then we will jump right into your questions, and hopefully we can help you through some of these. So hopefully I have shared the right screen. Your host, that's myself and Andy that's on the call. Andy's the smart one of the two of us. He's awesome. And he'll answer all of your questions, I'm sure. Fantastic. He hosts Salesforce Break. If you're not following that on YouTube and his blog post, you ought to do that. Terry's Tidbits is where you'll find me, and hopefully would welcome you subscribing to both of our channels. That would be awesome. If you have a question, this is fairly informal, so this is kind of a group activity. Just raise your hand in the what do they call the emotion things down there in your Zoom bar, and we will call on you and you'll be able to ask your questions. If you do want to share your screen, please share something out of your sandbox and make sure that it's de-identified data, so none of us get into trouble with sharing publicly anything that's out there that might be in your orgs. We are streaming live as well to YouTube, and so it is all definitely going to be publicly visible. So be careful with that. Do have your questions prepared. Have clear and concise questions ready for us so that we can try to get through as many questions as possible. If you have an answer to a question and they stump Andy and I, you are welcome to answer those questions. This is not a Terry and Andy show. We are here just to support and kind of help facilitate. So if you've got an answer to somebody's question and can add value to that, please jump in and contribute there as we go through it. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, we have Flow office hours is where you can register for this meeting, and you'd be able to contribute live to the live meeting as well. I am watching any questions that you post on the YouTube channel, so feel free to ask your questions there as well, and we will do our best to jump in and answer those for you as well. So with that, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to let you guys raise your hand if you've got a specific question.
Terry, first of all,
Yes.
I'm super excited again joining the Flow office hours with you. I was just going to ask you a question about the technology. Is it possible to turn off this ding dong sound? Do you know?
Yes.
Because
the ding dong is people coming in to the party. So I will do that.
It's triggering our little Yorkie, and I don't think she's
we don't want that. Let's keep the Yorkie happy.
She hates the doorbells, she's like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Delivery man, I gotta bite him.
Let me see. Yeah, we had a Yorkie in our house a long time ago, and it was the same way. I think I've got it turned off there now.
Thank you.
You are quite welcome. All right, first person with some questions. It looks like I see Emily. You are first on our list, so go ahead and.
Great. Hello. Excellent. So first, I have a really quick question. Andy, I was just watching your video a little bit ago on exploring the new fields feature that just got released, that is released for summer 2021, or is going to be released for summer 2021. Or wait, that was last summer, wasn't it? Okay. I was just getting confused on the timing because I am building a flow in Sandbox, and I am wanting to make sure that if I use that feature that it will work in production, but I got confused on the year. So it sounds like.
Sure. Let me just ask you this. Are you talking about the functionality where in ScreenFlow,
yes,
you can have a record variable and then you can start pulling in the fields, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. That's a very good question. The question is more related to release management than it is to anything. Actually, that was released quite some time ago in beta, and then new functionality has been added. For example, they didn't have pick lists and that kind of stuff before. Now they have pick lists, which is awesome, but it's still in beta. What does that mean? That means if Salesforce finds they cannot make that work very well or something, they can take it out. So if you want to be sure that you won't ever have to do that, won't ever have to redo your work, you might want to wait. But I don't really see that as a real risk. So it is going to work. I think in the end they are going to make it work because it's an important feature. I would use it. I mean, I would use it. What I use that feature quite a bit, especially when I'm throwing together demos, because it makes things much faster. For the fields where they have the functionality, I'll just use it. But for some other fields like long text, and I don't remember, like there are some other fields where it doesn't work, I can't use it for those fields. But I can add those after I start using the fields functionality. I can add text inputs, whatever, to it, and then make my own custom validation on those.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. And then, so pivoting to something else, I was wondering if it's okay if I share my screen. Let me believe it's this one. I have many windows, so I'm just trying to make sure I'm.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay. It must be super warm, right?
It was in the last couple of days. It's supposed to cool down this weekend, though.
Okay.
Okay. So my question is about. So I completed this this build a donor email for Flow for a nonprofit for NPSP, and there's this section in here where they say for the email addresses that you can just pull the email address by navigating through the record, like so whatever is on this contact's email, and then that would go in the email addresses comma separated. I tried doing that, but I got an error saying I was able to do it when I completed this module, but then when I tried it in my own instance, I got an error message saying that it needed to follow the format of, at something.com. So instead I, consulted this help article about creating a loop. This is what I ended up creating. It's a loop that grabs the email addresses and then puts them to a collection. And so instead of putting it in this email addresses comma separated, I'm instead invoking this this collection variable.
How many email addresses do you have? Do you know? Or
like 3.
3 email addresses. Okay.
So this is working, but I'm just kind of perplexed why this didn't work for me. Putting in the email address of one particular person, for example, because I thought if it's only 3, I tried going through and finding the email address of that one contact that was invoked throughout the flow, but it had to be
that should technically work, but this would only work for one email address anyway. So if
you wouldn't be able to do comma and then another.
Oh no.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's probably what it was.
That's actually a very good question, and it needs to be clarified. Almost none of these input fields, including the decision criteria, the things that you have on the right side or assignment, they cannot include anything other than the defined resources. And when I say defined resources, I mean variables, record variable fields, formulas. So if you need to do that, then what you can do is you can create a formula that puts those email addresses together into one string, including the comma separation. If it's comma separated, you can insert a comma in between. If you want a colon, you can do that. But again, that'll require a loop anyway to get it to that point. So what you have done is very good, I think.
Okay, great. And then lastly, if I wanted to make it so that, because right now, if it tries to put all of these email addresses in a collection and it doesn't find any, it sends out an error message.
That's right.
What would I do to make it so that if it finds 0 addresses, then it won't send out an error message?
You just found something that Jen taught me. It's actually her favorite thing, which is super useful. I didn't know when she taught me. So insert an assignment right there where plus is, right after the loop.
After the last?
So just insert an assignment. Just hit that plus right there.
Which one? This one?
Right above the lightning bolt, the action, right above the action. Yeah.
Okay.
Click there. And then insert an assignment for me, please. Yes. And then go ahead and go where it says variable. And then what are you getting for emails? Is it I mean, what is the name of the collection for emails?
This one.
Yeah, click it on that. But wait a minute, is that a collection?
That's a collection. Yep.
Okay, click on equals
Okay.
and then scroll down.
Mhm.
Where is the count? Equals, add, remove first. It should give you an assign count. Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. I'm sorry. I think we have to do that on the right side. Yes. Okay, click there. And then on the left side, click. And then just say new resource.
What's that? Sorry.
New resource.
Okay.
And then just create a number variable. Just variable.
Mhm.
And name it number and name it something like it's going to be the count. Count of records in there. Count.
Okay.
And decrease the decimal places to 0. Yes. And then
Throw
done.
a default in too.
What's that?
Sorry, I should just let Andy do it. I was just going to say throw a default value of 0 in there too, so it gets defined.
Okay.
Okay, say done.
Sorry.
Okay. And then you see where it says equals, change that one. Equals count. Now you have in your, you got to still name the assignment. So now you will have a variable that's going to hold anything from 0 if you have a maximum of 3 emails to 3. So you can check for that. You can say, if it's 0, I don't want to send the email out, right? You'll bypass the email. And then
Yes,
it'll avoid an error. And by the way, if you're just going to check for 0, you can also do the record variable, the collection record variable is null or not.
Right.
I just wanted to show you the count because the count is useful even beyond null.
Okay. And then do you know why this is now red?
Just reset it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
it's
go
just-
back into here and
It was red when we didn't have the equals. It was not matching on the left and right side. Now it's okay. So now if you say done, so you can use this information. By the
And
way,
so-
now that I think about it, maybe when it's null, the count is not going to show 0. Maybe you need to check for null separately. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't tried it.
Yeah, I probably would do that before you even go in through your loop. Because if you don't get any values out of your get statement, then you might as well exit out.
Ah,
Yeah, that's right. So you would have to do is null and count before the loop, not after.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
right. But you can easily change the connections.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And where so it would be essentially if it would be another path where if is null or if equals 0, then end the
Yeah.
flow. Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
It's just
Yeah, if
gonna
you throw a
stop.
decision in.
It's gonna stop.
Okay. Great. That makes sense. Thank you.
Very good. Other questions? Good question. That was nice. Matthew, I see your hand.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate this. I don't work with the user records a lot, and it's tripping me up in flows. For example, our account has several different names that are looking up to users, and when we're trying to create some updates to the account record and working with that, how do you identify the user, right? Do you have any tips or advice on? It's probably not by ID, but how do you look up the user in a flow to identify it?
So on your account, do you have several lookup fields on the
Yes.
account that point to the?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you are is this a record trigger flow or screen flows?
It could be
Could be
either
either.
one. Yeah. It's just the problem is we want to update the account, from one customer support rep to another, right? And so I'm trying to solve that problem with flow.
I'm just trying to understand the scenario here. So are
I
you
think he wants to
triggering?
change owner ID, is it?
Not the owner ID, but on the
But,
account,
other
there is a customer support rep name.
Yep.
It's a lookup to the user. And we just want to change it from one user, one customer support rep to the other. And I'm trying to see if I can solve this problem in Flow. I'm sure I can do it with a list view edit or something, but there's like 800 or 900 records that I'm talking about.
Okay, so you're trying to have a filtered list of users so that to make it easier for them to select a correct.
No,
replacement?
I'm trying to solve this business problem with Flow, which is we've got a customer support rep, which looks up to the user and change and update that account record to a different customer support rep.
So you would,
It's not as easy as getting the account and filtering it by the user. Maybe that's my
that's going to be
question.
the original.
How do you filter the account by look up to the user?
Yeah, so here is the deal. Now, if you have a lookup on your account, you created a custom lookup, right? I think.
Mhm.
So the custom lookup means you are actually keeping the ID in there, right? The ID for the user.
Okay.
And the user ID is the ID that you can actually get from your browser usually.
Right.
When you pull up the user record, right? So that's the ID. So by inflow, for example, by querying by name or something else other than the ID, you can get the ID for the person. Let's say you want to find the ID for Andy, and then you can search for first name Andy, last name Utkan, or something like that. You can get the user ID for that person, and you can see whether that record belongs to that person or not. For example, you can query the account saying, I want to get all the accounts where the user ID equals Andy's user ID, and that's an ID. That's a record ID. User is a record, right?
Right.
So then, if you get the information, if you get a list, for example, then you would have to loop through them. If you get a single record, then you can take that record and assign it to Matthew. Then you would have to know Matthew's user ID. If you don't know Matthew's user ID, you can get Matthew's user ID by querying the name or something else that's unique. For example, email. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think I have to get the user and get the account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on how you're coming into your flow. Yeah. If it's a record trigger flow, then it wouldn't be a record trigger flow if you're having a prompt for who is the user. So
it's not a record trigger.
It'd be a screen.
The one thing that's very important, once you start talking about doing operations related to the user, there is a very common mixed DML problem that you could encounter, which means if you want to update these records, and if you want to update the user and the account record on this in the same flow, you're going to get an error. You're not allowed to do that. That's called a mixed DML operation. It's a very common problem that a lot of people experience. In your use case, I don't think you will have to do that because you're not going to update the user record. Getting is not a problem. It shouldn't be a problem.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Good. I have had a question in the chat. I've been working with I'm going to totally butcher his name, Vinayek. He was asking about invokable variables. He's wanting to be able to pass information in and out of a Lightning component. And we do that in our Lightning components, just simply using an invocable method that's going to allow whatever your variable is to show up inside of the flow, so you can pass values between your Lightning component and your flow, either direction. So then,
yeah, and Terry, I think you gotta have collections there. It's got to be bulkified,
yes.
Right? There are details about it. Not that I've done it, but I know that people have challenges.
Yeah, I've done it a couple of times, and Oh, you should. Thank you. You're trying to help me pronounce your name right. I'm still going to get that wrong. Yeah, hopefully that will, the URL that I gave you will help you with how to do that. Once you've done one or two, it really isn't, it's kind of just a matter of repeating that on any other components that you need, but it does work pretty well. Just make sure that you are working from a collection, as Andy mentioned, as you're moving that data in and out.
Yeah, and the other day, Luke explained that one on Slack really well. I did not know this. I had an aha moment. I mean, I knew that flows are batched. Usually flows run in a batch of 200 records. And then, so it wants to call the invocable in 200 at the same time. So, you know, it wants to pass a collection instead of a single record. You knew that, but, you know, I didn't.
Yeah, very good. He says, cool, thanks. All right, other questions? Ashley.
All right, thank you. Okay, my question is this. Let's say that you have a screen flow and you're gonna run that screen flow system context without sharing access to all data, okay? In that screen flow, there is a lookup field. Should that lookup field access all data, or is it truly going to be limited by the user's, I guess, record level sharing?
Ah, okay. Terry, you want to take that, or you want me to take a stab at that?
Ashley listens to me every week on the, she's a part of my admin study group.
She's in an admin study group and she's asking these questions. That's very advanced.
Well, I've been in Salesforce for a long time. I just never
okay.
took the time
Or
to
is it one of
my
those,
certification.
is it one of those stump the teachers kind of moments, you know? Like,
I told her she needed to come here and ask you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should allow them to see that data. Andy, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but if you're going in a system context, it's everything that you're doing within that flow at that point is going to be visible.
That's
So
right. With one caveat, system context without sharing does not mean record level sharing. So how was that? There was something, wait a minute, I'm trying to think about it. If it's a system user, right? And it's going to ignore all the sharing. No, it should see everything, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's like a system admin, then yeah, certainly. Yeah. But let's say
it should see everything. I'm wrong. There was some detail about it, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't figure out if this is a bug or if this is expected behavior.
What's the error that you're getting, Ashley?
Oh, it's a lookup to an account, and the account can't be found because it's owned by a different user.
Are you and your sharing model is what?
Org wide defaults are private on account.
Yes, exactly. That's what I meant. I think system level, system context without sharing does not override the ownership of the records. If you are private, if you don't see that record, but I mean.
So I can bypass this if I go another way and not do a lookup. And by that, I mean, I can, have the user just type in, say, account name into a field, screen one, do get accounts, find all accounts by name, say like contains. So, user input, a value, search for the account names that has contains in it, pull all of those potential accounts, list them as a record choice set.
Is this related to, I mean, we're talking about the account record, right?
Yep, account record.
Are there confidential information on the account record?
Yeah, there is. So, the expected behavior on accounts when you so this is going to end in account ownership change is how this goes. So the business process is, look for an account first. If no account exists, then create new. But if the account does exist, then we want to change the owner to the user running the flow in that instance. And I can bypass this with a record choice set as a like a radio button list. Yeah, a lot of my old data. Yeah, so I can bypass it. It just can't be bypassed with the lookup. And then if the account can be found, then they create a new account at that time.
Now, so according to the help article here that I just shared, it looks to me like it should have permission to access and modify all data.
That's what I thought.
Hey, Terry, if you look down under where it says context impacts, that might be the solution here because it doesn't suggest screens.
Can do a screen.
Actions, create, delete, get, subflow, update.
Subflow.
Even if I can bypass it with a record choice set and then list all of the accounts that they potentially matched with.
Okay, here is what you can do. Let me just suggest something. And by the way, I this confuses me every time, Terry, so I'm going to have to look myself too. But if it doesn't work, most probably it's because of this. Now, this is what you can do. But I mean, it only depends on your choice. You can actually share the account records with the user via sharing rules and hide the field values with field level security.
It's the related records. So when you change the ownership of the accounts, that also pulls in related opportunities as well too and changes the owner. So I have to also, after the fact, change the opportunity records when I change the account owner as well. So it's less about the data on the account record and more about the related records, which I have to hide. So, but I have a workaround now because I just do that record choice set and I can list out the accounts in like radio buttons on the next screen instead of just doing a lookup. So I have a workaround for it. Now I'm just curious.
Wait a minute. If the flow can see those accounts,
they can. Yeah, it can. Oh yeah. I just tested it out about an hour ago.
There is no issue. Then they should be able to do the lookup as well. Then
right.
There's another issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Are you sure you have your lookup defined right, Ashley?
Yeah, I'm actually using quick lookup by unofficial SF instead because I kind of hate the
the standard one.
Yeah. I always get it wrong. So I've had 2 or 3 other people check it and rebuild it in their org as well too, and they get the same behavior.
Interesting. Have you tried it with the standard lookup?
I don't know anybody that can make the standard lookup work correctly.
Oh.
I mean, if you want to try with the standard lookup, I can never get it to behave the way that I want it to. And maybe that's the issue. Maybe it's the custom component.
What is it? A lookup to what object again? Account.
Account. Yeah, and I just didn't prepare my sandbox to hide sensitive data. So.
Yeah, and I don't have a flow up handy here to show you either, but if you use the standard lookup, and I'm going from memory here, you have to point that lookup to you'll define an object that has a lookup to the account, so like a contact record,
right?
And then you would point, you tell it that the field that you want to leverage or mimic is the account ID field, so that because that's a lookup to an account. It should be fairly straightforward. But I'd be curious if you tried it with a standard, if it would solve the issue for you.
Yeah, that is a good question. I'll try to rebuild it with the standard lookup and see. I'm now hate this method of the screen flow, so I ended up going in another direction, which bypasses this limitation or bug. I'm not sure what it is. and going another way, which is, I think, a better user experience. But I'm at this point just curious.
Well, if it's a better user experience, then yeah, do that anyway.
Yeah, this is really now for just posterity because I want to know if it's a bug or if it's.
I'm curious as well.
Yeah.
Because I've not had any issue like that with the standard lookup component. It's worked pretty well for me in the past.
Maybe it's just an issue with unofficial SF component.
Maybe.
So yeah,
but their stuff is typically pretty good too. So
yeah, I know. I use it a lot. So
yeah,
yeah, that was mine. So thank you guys.
Yeah, very good. Heather.
Hello.
Hey.
I had my headset muted as well. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what kind of flow I need to create. And I asked it in the community, and it seemed to almost create an argument amongst the people responding.
Let's see if Andy and I can argue about it. Let's try it out. Let's go.
So here's the situation. We have an SAP integration. So if we have a hierarchy, opportunities need to be on the parent, not on the child. So
the parent account.
Yes, the parent account and not on the child account. So if we have a hierarchy change and there is a parent account added or an account now rolls up to a different parent account, we need the opportunities that were on that child account now have the account changed on the opportunity to being the parent account.
How many records are you dealing with when you're doing that?
Well, that's also, I mean, on the account itself, it might not be too bad, though I haven't looked at all the things, but we now have a backlog of an issue. And so I was looking to see if I should do it as a scheduled, and then is it a record trigger, and then somebody's like, you should do it as a platform. But we used to, the old admin would turn things off. He'd like log on at some hour, turn workflows off, fix the accounts for moving the opportunities, and then turn things on. But there were the occasional times where he didn't turn things back on properly. So you had that gap. Things that were on a time base are suddenly not included on those time bases anymore. So I have a report that I have to monitor that. And we're now global. So you can, 8 o'clock for the US might be fine here, but India, Europe, they might be starting up, your really early people there. So I can't just turn off these workflows anymore, even as I'm trying to roll them in. So I'm going to try to use the toggle aspect to work around some rules. Jen Lee and I forget who had how to get around something of you change a toggle, and if the toggle is changed.
Well,
then,
hold on. Are we on a different question now? I got confused.
No, we're still on the same one. This is in depth. I'm trying to fix.
Okay, so
we have lots of workflow rules.
The question was how to do something, right? And I'm gonna try to recap that now. But then you started commenting on, was that related to how do I turn off all automation while I'm doing that? Is that the question?
I guess I should not necessarily. I should have said like the validation rules, not workflow rules. Sorry on that one. So before to make this work manually, so they did it manually. He turned off a whole bunch of validation rules, made the changes, and started up. But
Heather, the question is, how do you reparent the accounts? Is that right?
Yes,
the opportunities, reparent.
I'm sorry. Thank you so very much. Yes, I'm just trying to figure out where, what kind of flow.
Whether I understand correctly. Now, what you're saying is this. So you have accounts and then parent accounts, right? And then you may have opportunities on the child or the parent, but what you want to end up with is you want to have all the opportunities associated with the parent only, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the way you thought of doing that was actually making the child parent.
No, moving the account or reassociating the opportunities that are on the child account to the new parent account.
Okay.
So manually, you would go in, X out the account on the opportunity, change it to the new account, and then save, and it's associated, but it also triggers a lot of automations.
Yeah.
For that change. And that's where I'm trying to set this up as a flow that right now, so I can do a fix for the situation, and then so I can have it happen when the situation occurs. So that you change the hierarchy, and then either at that time or later in the evening or something like that, then they would all move and put in a system in the flow so that it doesn't trigger those validation rules and workflow rules. They
So
still lose you?
my thought on that is my immediate thought was, well, just use a record trigger flow after flow to go find those opportunities. But the opportunity is connected perhaps to a different record. So you have to, it has to be the new account or the account that's been changed. It may not be your parent account record. And because of that, I think I would probably go to a scheduled flow that runs in the evening that simply verifies that the opportunity
The account connected to
ID
the
is equal
opportunity
to
as a child?
to your, whatever your ultimate parent is.
Okay.
There's a nice formula that I don't know if you're using it, but if you do a Google search, I think Steve Moas probably has this out there 1,000 places, but do a query on Google for Salesforce Ultimate Parent ID.
Okay.
And you'll find a formula field that will navigate up the stream to the parent.
Right. So
And
he uses that for a field, but I'd be using that for my flow.
Well, I would just have a field that does that and put that on your opportunity. And if that field doesn't equal the account ID, then that's what triggers your flow to run.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what I would do is create a formula field on your opportunity. You can make it a checkbox to check the account on this opportunity. If their parent account field is not null, they are child, right?
Yeah, that'd be a way to do it too. Yeah, that'd be
something like that. Mm-hmm. So get a checkbox on there that'll show your scheduled triggered flow that these are the opportunities that need to be reparented, and then create a scheduled triggered flow to run and get all those opportunities and then reparent them. You can go up the relationship to find out, which opportunity to use. That shouldn't be that hard. Now, the one thing I will tell you is scheduled triggered flows are very, very much prone to locking errors. And what you're trying to do can cause that if you have other automation running in the background and doing all kinds of updates, because the locking idea is this: Salesforce will lock all the records that are associated with your record during the updates. And if you are updating a bunch of things along with the account update, then it's going to try and lock all those. And then unfortunately, there is no batch size that you can define with the scheduled triggered flow. It's going to try and do in batches of 200. And then once it starts doing all that stuff, it could end up in error. So you'll have to experiment and see.
Okay. And so if I also do the scheduled trigger flow, then it should clean up my backlog.
What
that we have.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, scheduled trigger flows, if they work and you don't experience any problems, they will actually run on all the records like at once that satisfy the entry criteria. It'll fix everything.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, if you wanted to bypass your validation rules and other automations that you might have, that's a different question that you would need to.
And I think that's where that toggle flips.
Yeah,
so you
that Jen had mentioned.
fired. if
Yeah,
that is
she's got a
changed.
great solution for that. So yeah, that would
Yeah.
that'd be what I would do if you want to bypass some of those others.
Okay,
in
that's
the
where
ch-
I'd started, and then I was trying to figure out where it started. So thank you very much.
Yeah, very
I'll
good.
go
And
with the
I
schedule.
apologize to those of you who have put some questions in the chat window. I totally missed that. They were written directly to me, but JC, you had a question. If I have a record trigger flow on a contact update, and if I do a mass update on contacts, say from a list view, would there be multiple instances of the flow triggered, one for each contact, and can we get Sql limit errors? Yes is the answer to that. They will trigger, and you could, depending on the volume that you're hitting, run into some limits there. Now, if you're updating them from a list view, the most you can update at any one time is 200 records. So you might be safe. It just depends on what else gets triggered when you make those updates. Does that answer your question? You can feel free to unmute or respond in the chat. Okay, yes. Okay, very good. And then
yeah, just wanted to confirm. So there will be like multiple instances of flow that will be fired, right?
well, it's gonna batch those together. So I don't know if I would think of it as multiple instances, but it will process all of those records.
Are we talking about a list view button or something like that that takes in multiple records?
So in list view, you can do inline edit on multiple records, right? So if I did a mass update, and if I have a record trigger flow, and it's not only like in list views, I could be updating as a collection in another flow also, right? Say in a flow, have a collection variable of contacts, and I do a update with the update statement in flow. But if the contacts in that collection have a record trigger update on them, so will it now fire multiple instances?
One transaction. That's one transaction.
No. What I'm saying is, so I have contacts in a collection, and I, update those. But say on the contacts, there is another record trigger flow that
Yes.
I have.
Yes.
So say
I'm
I'm
answering the question you're asking. It's only one transaction. The whole thing is one transaction because you're doing an update on a collection. And on that collection, you have record triggered flows attached to the back end of it. They'll all run in one transaction. And if it's too big, it's going to fail.
Okay. It will become one.
That's the
transaction.
idea.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Jory, you had a question as well. Do you want to unmute and ask?
No, I didn't. I was just adding on to something that you were saying.
Okay.
I believe when you were talking about the scheduled flow, I was just saying I agree.
Oh, gotcha. Perfect. All right. I don't know if I missed anybody else there. I'm kind of quickly scanning through there. Looks like I've got it. All right. Other questions? Lynette, Jackie, Matthew, all good? I'm great at calling people out. So if you've got a question, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to put you on the spot too, just for fun. Anybody have a cool flow that you've created recently that you'd like to share? Something that you've learned?
I have a really basic question, and I have a flow that when an opportunity is closed won, it needs to assign a task to somebody else who has nothing to do with the opportunity. And so I have my flow set up and I have the user ID for the person I want the opportunity assigned to in the assigned to ID field on the task. And what I've been told is we should not hard code user IDs into flows because if that person leaves or whatever. So if I don't hard code the user ID, how do I get the user ID of somebody who has nothing to do with the original object?
Is it always the same person?
No.
How
Well,
do you know, how do you know which person? this
different
is?
tasks are for different people. And the flow creates 4 tasks.
Okay. And that those 4 tasks always go to the same
Correct.
group of people. Okay.
Is that a record triggered flow?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there are multitude of ways you can deal with this. One of the ways you can deal with this, depending on how you want to manage it, you can actually assign tasks to queues now. You can create a queue. That way you can always manage who's in the queue, and it could be only one person.
Okay.
It'll give you flexibility. You know, you can always, if you document and you just got to go check that queue, like whether it's like a follow-up after sales task or, you know, like a customer service type of task, then you'll just assign it to those people.
Okay. Thank you.
Your other option would be to set up a custom label is another way you can get around it. If you know who the people are, you could just search for that person as well. But then you're hard coding the person's name
Right.
in there.
That's the same as
So
putting their user ID in.
Yeah. So I would probably, I like Andy's idea the best, but the other way I've gotten around some of that is just creating a custom label, and then I can refer to the custom label in my flow.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions?
I've got one that might be a little strange, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm in the process of stress testing flows, not for any particular use case, just because I'm curious kind of where the limits hit. And it's something I've done on screen flows. It's something I've done in record triggered flows in the past. I'm doing one on a scheduled flow right now, and the error email that I'm getting says to me that I've hit something, but the error message itself is not necessarily conducive. I'm curious if either of you have ever hit an error message that says invalid query locator before. I did some research on it, and it has some help documentation that points to like an API version issue. However, I'm running on 54, so I don't suspect that that's the issue. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm doing like a roll-up operation where I'm running my schedule on an account, and I'm getting a count of the cases that are associated to it. And I dumped in about 4,000 accounts and about 80,000 cases, not associated to the same account. I think the highest count on a account is about 36, but I just get flooded with emails saying, you know, there's an issue with the query, but when I run it in debug, I'm able to successfully do it. So I was curious if either of you had seen that error message and what you've done with it in the past.
What's the error message?
Invalid query locator.
I don't know.
If you haven't seen it, I'll message you both when I figure out what it is, if I figure it out.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up here real quick to see what I can find. It says query locators are generated by the system in certain cases, and if they are used after that, they expire. Well, that's absolutely meaningless. Query locator represents a server-side cursor of a query. Typically a query locator, let me share my screen so I'm not just reading to you, everybody can look at it too. Represents a server-side query. Return 2,000 records. So the volume that you were mentioning is what kind of caught my ear. You said that was like 40,000 records that you're pulling in, or something like that, or it could be up to that. You're muted there again, sorry.
My bad. Yeah, it's 4,000 accounts across 80,000 cases. I'm going to start scaling it back to see where it stops.
You're running into a volume issue there, would be my guess. And the fact that you can debug it, which means you're running a single record through at a time and it succeeds, that to me it yells and screams volume. But trying to think of a solution for a way that you could solve for that. Are you using Apex to help you do that, or are you doing it all in the flow?
I'm doing it all in the flow currently. I'm actually running it in parallel with a batch class that I wrote because I'm curious if hard-coded like Apex batch class has a higher level of performance than like a scheduled flow, because I know they both run in like a batch context. So I'm kind of curious to see, like in my experience, kind of where that line is, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'd be curious to see where that is as well.
Keep you posted.
I know for me personally, I would do that with I still might kick it off with Flow, but I'd probably hand the heavy processing over to Apex to do it.
Can I ask one thing? How many records does one single flow interview deal with?
In the use case that I described, or in general?
No, I'm just asking about, the error message you just received in that flow with the accounts and contacts. How many do you get in one single one?
So it breaks it up. I've started at kind of the full Monty, and I'm going to work on sort of like, I'm going to basically take my query and make it a bit more targeted to only pull in specific accounts. But right now I'm pulling across 4,000 accounts, 80,000 cases, and it just sends me two really long emails that I could just kind of keep clicking and scrolling through.
So in one single interview, you're getting 4,000 accounts and like 80,000 cases?
Oh yeah. I'm intentionally
So-
stressing it because I'm trying to find the upper
The
limit.
scheduled flows are gonna be batching in 200s.
Yeah.
200 is one transaction, so you're gonna be way over system limits already. I mean, the message you're getting is not relevant. I don't really understand what that means, but I mean, you're definitely gonna break it, and you did break it. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I do all the time.
Goal accomplished. You stressed it.
Yeah. And then essentially, like the way that the error message spits out is it goes on a record by record basis, right? So it's not like one get set that pulls all of those records. It's like, hey, record 1, then record 2, then record 3, and then I can just keep scrolling forever.
Yeah, and that's that entire batch is what's failing.
It does do that. It does do that.
Yeah. Anyway, I figured I'd throw it out there to see.
I'd love to see what you learn on it though. That'd be cool to come back and tell us.
Maybe we need to have you as guest at Salesforce Break then.
Yeah.
You can tell us how you broke and fixed it.
Perfect. Yeah. If you have a break hour, I'll be there. Thank you both.
Yeah. Anyone else? We are just about 8 more minutes here before we're done with the day. So if you've got a question, feel free to raise your hand.
Terry, are you going to Southeast Streaming?
I probably won't be. When is that one? Do you know?
That one is in June sometime.
In June. And I think that's when, isn't Midwest Streaming is around the same time, I think.
I don't know. They're all at the same time.
So I will be at Midwest Streaming as well. I haven't heard if I'm speaking there yet, but
wait, Midwest Dreaming is, I think, in
Minneapolis.
July.
Is it July?
It's gotta be. I don't think they are at the same time.
Yeah,
because that one is right when I'm in Turkey, or right before I go to Turkey for summer vacation. That's how I remember. It's gotta be in July sometime.
Yeah, I've got a slide somewhere where I have all of those figured out, but I don't know if I can
July 20th through the 22nd.
There you go. Yeah, so that's where
you don't have anything to do in June. Come on.
I know. You paying for my ticket? Oh shoot. Yeah, all the travel stuff gets a little bit pricey after a while.
Yeah.
Now are you in Atlanta, Andy? Or you're in Florida, aren't you?
I'm in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Florida.
5 to 6 hours of a drive away from Atlanta. But
okay.
I'll drive.
That's a lot easier to do. I'm 4 hours from Minneapolis, so I'll drive up to there too, maybe 3.5, something like that. So
All right. So
Awesome.
it's Friday. Let's wrap it up then.
Let's do. So thank you guys very much. Please share that we're doing this with others so that we continue to have a good group show up second Friday every month. Thanks for coming today, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.